Welcome to How You Livin', a transformative podcast featuring best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and minister, Dr. Rick Rigsby. And now, Dr. Rick.
Hello, friends. Thanks so much for listening. This episode is part of our ongoing conversation titled The Essence of Greatness. This segment is subtitled Determination. But first, let's review previous episodes. This series is based on the notion that not everyone will be successful. Everyone can be successful. We all have the capacity, but not everyone is willing to pay the price for success. Motivating this series, a personal health journey that I've been on the past few years. You see, for decades, I was considered morbidly obese, and despite that label, I was among those not willing to pay the price for better health. Over the years, after countless failed attempts, my thoughts convinced me that losing over 100 pounds was not in the cards for me. I would often say, based on my thoughts, I can't do this. This is just too hard. I guess I'm just meant to be big. Here's a good place to insert the words of Frank Outlaw. Watch your thoughts. They determine your words. Watch your words. They determine your actions. Watch your actions. They determine your habits. Watch your habits. They form your character. Watch your character. Your character determines your destiny. Note well, friends, that our thoughts serve as the launching pad for everything else. In fact, the Bible states, as a man thinketh, so is he. With thoughts such as never and can't and too hard, my habits were secure and my destiny would not have been reached unless my thinking was disrupted. You see, friends, I wasn't about to move away from the island of comfort. There was no way. Something had to change, and it had to be my thinking. You know what's ironic about this? I've gone all over the world for the past 30 years quoting Francis Bacon, that great British statesman who said on one occasion the duty and office of rhetoric is to apply reason to imagination for the better moving of the will. Here's the translation. Our reasoning is what moves our will. Well, guess what? I finally put it together. A few years ago, I realized I was in my mid-60s. I weighed over 300 pounds. There are not many folks in this category. I began to realize the impact of my impulses and my selfishness. My weight was not only unhealthy for me, but I was facing a future of predicted health results. They were predictable. Also, I know what it's like to be a widower, and I did not want my wife to experience this in her 60s. Plus, I love my children and I adore our grandchildren, and I don't want to leave them prematurely. In addition, I have more mountains to climb, more people to encourage, more folks to impact. All these reasons convinced my imagination to act, which convinced my will to move. The duty and office of rhetoric is to apply reason to imagination for the better moving of the will. The results, my thinking was disrupted. As a result of disrupted thinking, 130-pound weight loss. More important, healthy for the first time in years. And I've learned some transformative, life-changing lessons along the way. Here's one lesson: facing and answering the why question. Why should I lose weight? Became so blatantly obvious as I reviewed the reasons. I could no longer run from facing a certain future of poor health and all the devastating consequences that accompany such a condition for both me and my family. You see, if we don't understand why, if we don't know why, we won't ever be able to transform our lives. If we don't understand why, we'll never be willing to endure the pain of transformation. Part 1 of this series is subtitled The Pain of Success. In this episode, I discuss why pain is critical to any type of growth. In Samuel Chan's book, Leadership Pain, The Classroom for Growth, he stated, quote, When you interpret your pain as bigger, more important, more threatening, more comprehensive than your vision, you'll redefine your vision down to the threshold of your pain, end quote. In summary, without pain, there is no growth. And if we cannot answer the why question, we're reluctant to endure the pain. Does that make sense? Francis Bacon, once again, reason moves the will. In my case, the more powerful the reasons, the greater the likelihood to tolerate the pain. Part 2 is subtitled The Blueprint for Success. Learning to do hard things is critical to any kind of success. You see, success has a price tag. It's called hard. If it was easy, everyone would be successful. If you believe, as I do, that great people do things that other people don't, try beginning your day with this motto: do hard better. Let me say it again. Do hard better. Don't run from hard. Embrace hard. Do hard better. I read a great blog by Tim Denning in Success Magazine. He said this: if your life sucks, it's proof you need to do more hard things. Part 3 is subtitled Becoming Comfortable, Being Uncomfortable. Friends, anything worth accomplishing forces you out of your comfort zone. My health journey forced me to hold a mirror in front of my face. Boy, I learned some things about me that I'm not proud of. For example, for most of my life, that's right, for over 60 years, I have chosen comfort over challenge and convenience over change. These days, I'm learning I must yield control in order to gain control. I'm learning that I must be willing to have a teachable spirit, that I don't know everything, that if I'm the smartest person in my group, I need a new group. I'm learning the most important lesson, and that I must always, every day for the rest of my life, answer the why question. For years, I thought losing weight was easy. It actually is. What's hard is the daily commitment to the process and learning to become comfortable being uncomfortable with relinquishing control, challenging old assumptions, developing a teachable spirit, understanding the power of our emotions, and learning the difference, in my case, between hunger and need. Bottom line, losing weight, easy. Transforming your life, uncomfortable. But if you're not satisfied with any part of your life right now, I want you to ask yourself a simple question. Am I willing to be uncomfortable in order to make the necessary changes to transform my life? Again, the words of Samuel Chan in his book, Leadership Pain. Growth equals change. Change equals loss. Loss equals pain. So inevitably, growth equals pain. If we're not willing to suffer discomfort, we should not expect to grow. I learned that my comfort was rooted in habits and patterns counterproductive to good health. And I was reluctant to change those patterns, even though they were not offering me the intended results. Let me give you an example. For decades, I rode a stationary bike several times a week. But at the same time, I consumed approximately 4,000 calories a day. Doctors tell me about 4,000 calories daily was what it took to maintain over 300 pounds. Here was my thinking. Well, I'm exercising. That ought to be enough. I'm exercising so I can eat anything I want. Boy, do you see the lack of rationale? You can justify anything. As a matter of fact, I found that it's a lot easier. Hear that word? It's a lot easier to do the familiar rather than risk painful changes that might disrupt our routines. Precisely why part 3 of this series is subtitled Disruption. Disruptive thinkers add huge value to any organization. Such thinkers drive organizational change. They challenge existing paradigms. They perpetuate forward progress. They're always ahead of a constantly evolving environment. They think outside the box, allowing them to see things that others don't. If all you see is what you see, you don't see all there is that needs to be seen. You may not know the name Mark Randolph, but you know his company. Here's a quick recap of the backstory from Randolph's book titled That will never work. Check this out, friends. Back in the 1990s, Blockbuster was king of the video world. They had 9,000 stores, 60,000 employees all throughout the United States. Mark Randolph and his business partner, Reed Hastings, secured an appointment with Blockbuster's corporate folks. Here was their pitch. We'll give you 49% of our company if you allow us to be your online video rental arm and mailing distribution arm. Blockbuster laughed Randolph and Hastings out of the building. Randolph stated that he and Hastings had to figure out a way to disrupt the video world, but their first step had to be disrupting their own thinking. Well, the rest is history. Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy in 2010. Blockbuster has gone from 9,000 stores to one store in Bend, Oregon. They've gone from 60,000 employees to 5 employees at that Bend, Oregon store. Meanwhile, Randolph and Hastings' little company, well, it's done quite well. Their company, Netflix, with a valuation of $150 billion. The first step to that fortune, disrupting their thinking on a daily basis. We've now arrived at part 4 of our series, simply titled Determination. For every great endeavor advanced by every successful individual, you can go to one constant variable. Those endeavors that produce that success, those endeavors are fueled by a fierce, unstoppable, relentless determination. First, let me give you a little clarity. In previous podcast episodes over the past few years, I've talked a great deal about perseverance. There is a significant difference between perseverance and determination. Every great person I've ever met, whether a mathematician, an entrepreneur, a shipbuilder, a teacher, an athlete, an actor, stands shoulders above all others because of one trait, an uncompromising determination. Here's the clarity. When you persevere, you are refusing to give up. I like that. Rather, you keep pushing forward, focused on reaching your goal. Conversely, here's determination, the firmness of purpose that drives you toward that goal. It's the resolve and commitment you have to achieve what you want, no matter what obstacles arise. So, perseverance, the focus is on reaching your goal. Determination, the firmness of purpose that drives you toward the resolve and commitment necessary to achieve that goal, no matter what comes, regardless of the obstacles, regardless of the odds. Determination says, be it resolved in my spirit, I must reach my goal. No other options, no compromising. My purpose is firm. My drive is resolved. My commitment overwhelms any urge or impulse contrary to my success. I think Napoleon Hill said it best in his book, Think and Grow Rich. Listen to this. Napoleon Hill stated that every successful person he has ever encountered possessed 2 qualities. Number 1, a singleness of purpose. Number 2, a burning desire to accomplish that purpose. Friends, in our next episode of this series titled The Essence of Greatness, I want to put hands and feet on this transformative power called determination. And together, let's discover how we can strategically transform our lives on a daily basis. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Until we meet again, this is Dr. Rick asking the most important question I can ask. How you living?
Are you ready to make an impact in your world right now? Do you want to stop existing and start living your best life right now? Dr. Rick wants to give you the first chapter of his best-selling book, Lessons from a Third Grade Dropout, absolutely free. Just go to www.rickrigsby.com/free gift to get the print or audiobook right now.
This is the podcastfactory.com.